This year has been such an interesting year. It seems that Hollywood has been unraveling right in front of the masses. This was the year that so many powerful people were exposed one by one. While recently people have been obsessed with Diddy, it seems that they have forgotten of all the other names that were exposed this year. Nickelodeon and Dan Schneider were exposed for their evil against children. The WWE and Vince McMahon were exposed for taking advantage of women and trafficking. Kanye West was also allegedly exposed for trying to take advantage of women just like Diddy. Now, another powerful man is being accused of similar crimes as Diddy. This time is the businessman and former CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch, Mike Jefferies, as he has just gotten arrested for horrific crimes that might just be worse than Diddy's. Hey guys, I hope all is well. Welcome back to The Truth Is, where I drop new videos every other day exposing the truth. In today's episode, we will be talking about Mike Jefferies, the former CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch. Let's get right into it. Right now, we are witnessing one of the most interesting moments in our recent history. We are watching a shift in the tide. For the longest, the rich and powerful have always managed to get away with doing the most horrific crimes. Whatever they did, they either get a slap on the wrist for it, or worse, their crimes are just covered up entirely. This made the rich and powerful untouchable, allowing them to do as they please without any consequences. But it appears that this year, that armor that was protecting these monsters has finally broken. Name after name just keeps on getting revealed, showing us who are truly the monsters of this world. This time, it was one of the most richest businessmen in the world, the former CEO of one of the most known clothing brands in the world, Abercrombie & Fitch. Just like P. Diddy, it's being reported that Mike Jefferies was arrested on trafficking charges. He is being accused of using his status and power as the CEO of Abercrombie to trick male models into participating in sex parties with him and his accomplices. Going over the indictment, I can't help but think of Diddy. The allegations are quite similar, besides the fact that Jefferies seemed to only be interested in male models. According to the indictment, since at least late 2008 to 2015, Mike Jefferies and his two other accomplices, Matt Smith and James Jacobson, ran a male trafficking ring. The indictment claims that Mike used his power as the CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch to convince male models to participate in his own version of the Diddy freak-off parties. James Jacobson was the middleman and the recruiter for Jefferies, as he would scout the models for him. Jacobson would then promise these male models that if they participated in these freak-offs with Jeffrey, they would be given a modeling opportunity with Abercrombie & Fitch. When the models would agree, they would be forced to participate in acts with Jacobson. These men were then transported around the world to participate in Jeffrey's freak-off parties, and in exchange, he promised them opportunities or paid them off. Now, let's read this full indictment together, as it's truly disturbing in so many ways. The defendant, James T. Jacobson, also known as Jim Jake, Mr. Cook, and Todd, was employed by the defendants Michael Jefferies and Matthew C. Smith to recruit, interview, and hire men to perform commercial acts for Jefferies and Smith, including at the New York properties from approximately 2008 to 2015. The defendant Michael S. Jefferies, Matthew E. C. W. Smith, and James T. Jacobson, together with others, operated two international trafficking and prostitution business. During this period, Jefferies and Smith relied on their vast financial resources, Jefferies' power as the CEO of Abercrombie, and numerous people including Jacobson and a network of employees, contractors, and security professionals to run a business that was dedicated to fulfilling the sexual desires and ensuring that their international trafficking and prostitution business was kept secret, therefore maintaining Jeffrey's powerful reputation. As part of this international trafficking, the defendants Michael Jeffrey and Matthew C. Smith paid for dozens of men, including among other John Does number 1 through 15, individuals whose identities are known to the grand jury, to travel within the United States and internationally to meet Jefferies and Smith in various locations, including at the New York properties, as well in hotels in such places as England, France, Italy, and Morocco, for the purpose of engaging in commercial acts with Jeffrey Smith and others at the sex events. Some of the men traveled to and were paid to attend multiple sex events. The defendants Michael S. Jefferies and Matthew C. Smith recruited, hired, and paid an exclusive set of household staff to facilitate and supervise the sex events. Amongst other things, the staff transported men to and from the sex events, arranged physical spaces for the sex events, and supervised the men who attended, including amongst other things, facilitating the conduct described below in paragraphs 9 to 11. At the direction of the defendants Michael Jefferies and Matthew C. Smith, the staff were presented at, observed, and acted as security for, including by controlling entry and exit at the sex events. The staff also provided Jeffrey Smiths and the men who attended with alcohol muscle relaxants known as poppers, lubricant, Viagra, and condoms, amongst other items. As directed by Jefferies and Smith, the staff also directed men to, among other things, wear costumes, use sex toys, or prepare for particular S acts. Either the defendant James T. Jacobson or the staff paid the men for attending the S events. At the direction of Smith, Jacobson paid fees to individuals who successfully referred men who were subsequently selected. The defendant James T. Jacobson traveled throughout the United States and internationally to recruit and interview men for the sex events. During tryouts of potential candidates, Jacobson typically required that the candidates first engage in commercial S acts with him. Following the tryout by Jacobson, the defendant Matthew C. Smith approved candidates prior to their selection for and transportation to an S event. At the direction of Smith, Jacobson paid fees to individuals who successfully referred men who were selected. The defendants Michael S. Jefferies, Matthew C. Smith, and James T. Jacobson, and others acting at their direction, employed coerced, fraudulent, and deceptive tactics in connection with the recruitment, hiring, transportation, obtaining, maintaining, solicitation, and payment of men to engage in commercial S. For example, Jefferies, Smith, and Jacobson and others acting at their direction employed a referral system and interview process that failed to inform men of the details of the sex events before they attended, including the full extent and nature of the sexual activity that would be required of the men at the events, including amongst other things. While I can't say was listed here, let's just say backdoor play with large adult toys. Let's continue. Required that prospective candidates first participate in a sexual encounter or tryout with Jacobson at times without any notice. Caused men to believe that attending the sex events could yield modeling opportunities with Abercrombie or otherwise benefit their careers, or, in the alternative, that not complying with requests for events acts during the events could harm their careers, including by, amongst other things, referring directly and indirectly to modeling opportunities that did not exist, incorporating Abercrombie's products in the events, providing men with itineraries for the events that did not refer to commercial S, instead resemble those sent to models for photo shoots, thereby obscuring the nature of the events from the men selected to attend. Physically groom men prior to the S events, including at times shaving men's privates without advance notice. Required men to relinquish their personal items including clothing, wallets, and cellular phones and store them in inaccessible locations during the S events. Required men to sign non-disclosure agreements, prohibited the disclosure of information about the S events, including to their own family and friends, and required the payment of damages in the event of a breach. Internationally recruiting heterosexual men, certain of whom were unwilling to engage in particular S acts, including backdoor, and insisted that men who previously stated they were unwilling to engage in particular S acts, including backdoor, nonetheless engage in such acts during the S events. Pressured men to consume alcohol, Viagra, and muscle relaxants known as poppers during the S events, required the presence of the staff during the S activity, and ensured that men attending did not leave the S events until Jeffrey and Smith decided. On more than one occasion, the defendants Michael Jefferies and Matthew C. Smith either directed others to or personally injected men in their privates with a prescription-grade erection-inducing substance for the purpose of causing the men to engage in S acts in which they were otherwise physically incapable or unwilling. Notwithstanding the fact that these injections were not medically indicated and frequently caused the men to suffer painful physical reactions that lasted for several hours. Jefferies and Smith employed their use to fulfill their own sexual desires by causing men to submit to them. As you can see, these are some really troubling allegations. What this indictment tells us is what I've been saying for a while now. Diddy isn't the only one in Hollywood having these crazy freak-off parties. It's many of these powerful people up to this disturbing behavior. Just like Diddy forced people to participate in his freak-offs with the promise of a music career, Jefferies promised male models that he would give them a career modeling if they participated in his freak-offs. He literally forced straight male models into participating in his all-male freak-off parties, literally injecting their privates with something that would force them to be in the mood. This is what the industry does. This is the unspoken price of fame. If you want to make it, you have to sell out and compromise. Now, if you're asking yourself, why are all these elitists participating in the same activities? Well, it's because they're all a part of the same religion, Thelema, or the Golden Dawn. What the masses don't know is that Thelema, or the Golden Dawn, is the secret religion of the elite in Hollywood. These group orgy rituals come directly from this religion, and they do it to harness sexual magical energy. While you might think that this is silly, it's what these people believe in. Think about it. This is very similar to the allegations Vince McMahon is facing. He was accused of having his own WWE freak-offs, just like Jefferies and Diddy. This is not tailored to one individual in Hollywood. These powerful men are all up to the same sick behavior, and it comes from what they worship. The only difference is they haven't been exposed yet. What Mike Jefferies was doing was just as bad, or some would even say worse than what Diddy did. The only thing that concerns me is why all of this seems to be happening now. After years of people like Mike and Diddy running around doing evil, this just so happens to be the year they're getting exposed. It almost feels like this is all being orchestrated and fed to the masses. Mike was guilty for years, just like Diddy, but now all of a sudden they want to arrest him. It's not adding up to me. One thing that's interesting is that unlike Diddy, Mike Jefferies got a bond. He's not in jail rotting away like Diddy. He's being allowed to be out in the free world. Who knows if he's doing the same activities right now? And who knows if he would really end up in prison serving time for his evils? I'm gonna keep my eyes on this case, and I'm gonna keep you guys up to date. When any new information comes out, I'll make sure to let you guys know. Well, I'm gonna end this one here. I want to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.